I'm not against outsourcing. A lot of people think I'm against outsourcing. I'm not. I think there's a balance, and that balance in Australia is way off. And that's the issue. There's a reason why our skill set, the availability of people and their skill sets and the level of their skill sets in this country is unavailable to us. It's because we have gone that far unbalanced in our delivery of projects to outsourcing that we have not brought through those next generations. We are not allowing people to develop. We are not allowing people to have the time to learn the skills, to learn from the basics. You come in now to a firm, it's sink or swim. You got to go, and you got to go at 100 miles an hour. So I think it's all about that balance. If you can get the balance right, you're part of the way for outsourcing to help or aid, right? I had this conversation, I think just last week with one of our technicians, and I said, if an organization was able to get the amount of resources that they have offshore at the cost of offshore here in Australia, would we have offshoring? The answer is no, we wouldn't have offshoring, right? So I think we have the resources, but we're never going to get that cost base. So at the end of the day, offshoring is used to reduce cost, right? Now, at some point in time, we're going to get to a point where you're going to have to offshore 100% because you're just not going to have the available people anymore, because you are not putting the investment and the time into your local people. You're not putting the time and investment into bringing up the next generations. And that goes into not just technicians, but into engineers, into all levels of delivery inside the AEC industry. Like, we need to give people the time. We need to give people the investment. We need to give people the mentorship to be able to deliver our project.
Hi, Josip. Welcome to the Digital Construction Podcast. How are you today?
Andrea, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So in this episode, we sit down with Josip Bandur. We'll probably also talk about the pronunciation of his name and his origin. But Josip is currently a BIM leader at Measure Engineering, but he has spent about 20 years of his careers at Carno and then Arcadis. We'll talk about the often overlooked realities of digital delivery, from drawing standard to technician culture, leadership disconnects, and burnout. Josip is going to share with us a rare and honest view from the trenches of how BIM projects are delivered. I'm very excited about this project today, but before we start, Josip, I have an icebreaker for you. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received in your career?
Best piece would be authentic, be yourself. What we learn throughout our careers is that this industry of ours is very small. Everybody knows everybody in a certain way. So just being yourself makes it a lot easier for you to maintain that persona that you want out in industry. That's number one. Number two is adaptability and modeling for change. As we know, things change all the time. Being adaptable and being able to move with the project life cycle is super important. And then I guess, yeah, that's probably the two main ones I would say throughout my time.
That's probably a good one. And for those who follow Josip on LinkedIn, you can see how opinionated you are about certain topics. So I'm very excited to have a chat with you about these topics. But before we start, Josip, can you start telling us a little bit about your career journey, what led you to work in the construction space, and some of the key projects you've been involved in?
Sure. Well, as you can tell, my name isn't a very Australian name. My parents are Croatian migrants. My dad was a renderer on residential construction sites. So from the age of about 12, I used to mix cement with him on school holidays, weekends. So to a certain extent, I was always probably going to be in the construction industry as a labourer or as a carpenter or something like that. But during school, I went to a engineering firm for a couple of weeks there and really enjoyed myself there. So I was never really good at school. I didn't do terribly well on the math side and all that sort of stuff. So I knew I couldn't be an engineer to a certain extent, but I started doing the civil engineering diploma at TAFE. Got into there, really enjoyed drawing, because we started on the board actually in those early days of TAFE. So the first 6 months you spent your time on the board drawing documentation, learning how to put drawings together, understanding different concepts around where things go and how they are placed inside of those things. And that sort of triggered me to go, I think this is what I want to do. I got very lucky in that a friend of mine got a cadetship at Alexander Brown in Cambridge as a civil cadet drafter. A couple of months later, they were looking for a structural cadet drafter. I applied, I got that job, and to a certain extent, that was what history wrote. I ended up, Cardno bought Alexander Brown in Cambridge after, I think, 3 years. I was at Cardno for 21 years, spent the majority of my time there. One of the lucky things about working at Cardno was that I got exposed to a lot of different sectors within the engineering industry. So I did not just vertical infrastructure of all sorts of types, but horizontal infrastructure as well. So I spent a lot of my time doing hospitals, education, health, correctional facilities, even in the water space, and then started doing bridges, tunnels as well. Spent 6 years on the Legacy Way Tunnel here in Brisbane, which was probably one of my most favourite JVs that I ever worked on. I missed the early development of Revit during that time, which might have been a blessing in disguise. But I think all those sort of attributes inside that time probably developed me, and under a lot of mentorship within the people within those organizations has helped me to be probably the person that I am today. Cardno got bought out by Stantec. I quickly found that Stantec wasn't probably going to be the place for me, and it was time for a change. I moved to Arcadis for a year. I loved Arcadis. Arcadis was fantastic. Great people. People that were willing to hear different perspectives, take on different perspectives, which was amazing. But an engineer that I used to work for 10 years at Cardno, 10 plus years at Cardno, called me up one day and said, look, I'm starting a Brisbane office down at this small firm called Measure. I'm going, who's Measure? Never heard of them. And he goes, I need a guy that can do Revit and produce some projects for me. I knew his standard of delivery. I knew what he wanted. I knew how pedantic he is about delivering a certain quality of product. And that excited me and scared me to even extents. It's hard when you, I guess, get brought up in a tier one sort of area for most of your career, and then you're thinking about moving to something that is very different to that. So I did make the jump. I've been here now nearly 2 years. I think I said on one of my LinkedIn posts when I moved to Measure after the first year, I said, if you think you're good, move to a smaller firm and see how good you are. And it tests you in so many different ways. I think we all get a little bit comfortable in the budgets and the organizations and the amount of people that are there to be able to help you develop and deliver things. But when you break it all back down to the simplest of forms, can you do it then? And that's where that adaptability comes in. Wow. So yeah, that's a bit of a brief of my 20 odd years so far.
Yeah, this is amazing. Like I like how you bring this perspective of thinking about the larger company or the smaller companies and how things could be different, and also your passion for quality of drawings. And I would like to start from there, from the quality and the state, or maybe somebody will say the decline of drawing standards. I just want to know from your point of view, what's the current state of drawing standards, and do you think it has slipped in recent years?
Look, I don't think it's a question to be asked if it's slipped. Of course it has. Everybody says it, even if it's behind closed doors. We know it has. We're not doing much about it. We're just happy with what we have at the moment, and that sort of it's a sad state of affairs. If we break it all back down, drafting is a craft. It really is an absolute craft. You go back to the days when the people were on the boards trying to put pen to paper, set things out, deliver projects back then. Now that's the true craft right there. Then we moved into sort of the AutoCAD 2D space days. I still think that there was a very much amount of people in that era that developed a great set of drawings, because you still had to really think about what you were putting down on paper, because you couldn't really see it in 3D, right? You still had to have perspectives and understand what you were trying to put down and deliver that and place it on in a certain way so that it could get constructed out on site. I think now with pressures of delivery, timelines, budgets, even just 3D and the amount of changes that are allowable these days, I think everything just puts pressure on, and the first thing to drop is quality. There are definitely a bunch of other factors to that we will go into later on within that, but there's a big emphasis currently on models. Models are apparently the be-all and end-all. That's where all our data is stored and all that sort of stuff. But for me, at the end of the day, my delivery is a PDF and a DWG. Doesn't matter if I model, doesn't matter the information inside that model. Like, it's great for coordination with our other disciplines and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, my contractual deliverable is a PDF and a DWG. Now, I've got to try and make that as efficient as possible because of the constraints that we have. But I also will never go away from the quality of delivery first. The quality is always the first thing that we look at. And then, does what we're doing affect that quality? If the answer is yes, we won't do it. If the answer is no, but it speeds up the process and we just need to view things a little bit differently, I think that's where you find the benefits in model to documentation presentation inside and that's where you can find your benefits. The issue we have in Australia, especially in the infrastructure space, is that our infrastructure bodies love to see a set of documentation a certain way. And that certain way is usually what we used to produce in CAD. Now, if your mindset is, I want to see exactly what we used to produce in CAD, I think you're going to struggle to deliver a project with the fundamentals of a great model and a great set of documentation, because there's a lot of side steps that you need to take to be able to deliver those two standards together. So it's a fine balancing act between how can we show our information to not decrease the quality. So you always have to constantly ask yourself, all right, I'm making an advancement here, but is that going to affect what we want to deliver? So you always got to keep asking yourself, will this affect the quality of the final deliverable that we are trying to achieve? And it's not always easy. You always have a conversation with your engineers and your business managers and all that sort of stuff. And you tell them, look, I'm not one to go forwards and going backward, or go backwards and going forwards. I will tell them this will take longer. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we deliver a product and deliver the information in a way that if we keep doing this, it's going to take us even longer. So yes, I'm going to improve time here. Now we can go that a step further, but in my eyes, this will decrease quality. And I ask them to make the decision on, this is where I want to be, but if you want to just decrease the amount of information that you're going to deliver, then I'm happy to go here, but let's just make sure that we are all happy with the product that we are delivering. Because at the end of the day, there are so many engineering firms now out, especially once you come down to this tier. There are so many small engineering firms out there. The only thing that you can differentiate yourself from these days, and it shouldn't be cost, it should be the quality of product that you produce. If you produce a quality of product, those clients will usually keep coming back to you.
Yeah, that's a great point of view. And what do you think that poor documentation, like poor quality of documentation, impact project delivery and collaboration? What's the negative of that? I know it sounds like an obvious question, but I just want to know your point of view.
There used to be a lot more thought early on a project. There also used to be quite a large ramification on any major changes that used to be made within a project as well at different points within the life cycle. The great thing and the bad thing about now doing everything in 3D is that you can make changes very quickly. And a lot of them. The problem with that is, like I said again, our deliverable is a DWG and a PDF. Now we can adjust the model very quickly, but that's not to say that the documentation will adjust just as quick.
Or the annotations, yeah.
So you can adjust it at Arcadis. Arcadis was fantastic in the civil infrastructure. I worked there mainly in civil infrastructure. You could build a bridge in an hour and a half. They had a fantastic toolbar set, and you could build a bridge very quickly. But then to produce the set of documentation that went with that bridge, and then if the civil guys were to change the alignment of that bridge, yes, I could update that bridge modelly very quickly, half an hour, whatever, an hour. But all the documentation then goes a little bit array, and that is where the time now is spent. And that is why the quality is decreasing, right, as well. Because you look at it back in when we used to produce, I guess, CAD and drawing board drawings, the amount of detail sheets, the amount of section sheets, the amount of things we used to supply within that deliverable was quite extensive, right? You were doing a steel structured roof. You used to have 10 pages of steel details. Now, you've got 2 pages of typical details and that's it. And we'll let the steel guys, the steel fabricator work it out or something like that. I've had this conversation with people previously, and I've said at a more higher construction level, I said, have your RFIs in the last 5 to 10 years increased or decreased? And the answer is always increased. Now, in a world of BIM, collaboration, coordination, and all this sort of stuff, why are RFIs increasing, not decreasing?
Good point.
That is tell me somebody that says that RFIs have decreased. Nobody. I haven't heard somebody say that they've decreased in their line of work. Our work is increasing. The amount of work that we do now is increasing. So everything puts pressure on our deliverables. Now you can't decrease the quality of design, right? At the end of the day, that structure needs to stand up. That is what is of the highest most importance. What can we decrease? And this is probably how managers look at it, right? What can we decrease? Well, I don't need to do those 10 bespoke details. We'll work it out on site, but that's 10 extra RFIs for the engineer later down the track. And so over the years, we've started decreasing the amount of documentation, the amount of detailing, the amount of information we provide in those stages. And then they go all into that construction phase, which then increases the work with RFIs and the engineers on site and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a continual flow-on effect of, I think it's easy for us technicians don't have a lot of, I say it people within influence, right? So we're the easy ones to go, I don't need you to do that, which is great to a certain extent for us, but we also need to deliver. Without us, those drawings don't go out. You don't have a package to deliver. Your design does not get, we joke in the office, we said, I'm just going to walk out and you deliver your blue beams. You don't need me anymore. And like that, look, that's never going to happen. That's why this whole automation and AI and like a good technician's role will always be useful no matter what. The issue is that skill set is disappearing very quickly. And that's sort of where we are currently at.
Yeah, I really want to expand on this technician's role and maybe technician culture. Like, what does technician culture means to you, and why do you think it's important?
Technicians are the backbone to everything that we do. At the end of the day, we are the ones that will deliver your design in a way that is able to be constructible. Doesn't matter if we're just producing a model or we're producing documentation. A technician's role is, look, there's engineers now doing a technician's role, right? You see, they go, oh, our engineers are in Revit now. They're producing, and I'm like, and I talk to engineers and I go, did you go to uni for 4 years to be a technician? Their answer is always no. That is the last thing they want to do. They want to design, they want to create, they want to use that knowledge that they have to be able to construct sustainable and lean structures and quality structures, right? They don't want to be stuck there doing the documentation around that. That's what technicians are for. And then the technician's role is, if you love what you do, is to produce a quality. Like, there's a reason why I haven't gone into BIM management. It's because I love producing a set of documentation. If I lost that, I think I'd probably retire, or I'd find something completely different to do. You really need to love what you do, and you really need to have a passion for it to be able to produce a quality set of documentation. The problem is that love and passion around the industry, especially around technicians, is getting suppressed because of the delivery pressures and all that sort of stuff that we have. And so therefore, it's either all the great technicians around my generation have all gone into BIM management, BIM coordination, probably never delivered a set of drawings in the last 4 to 5 years. Or they've just completely left and done something else. So it's, and that's why we have sort of this now gap in our industry, in that we have a lot of people at a very low level. We have a few in that sort of upper mid-range, but that experience now to train the up-and-coming people is just not there anymore. So, yeah.
However, this is a common concern from multiple companies. I'm hearing this everywhere. Like, it's a real problem we are facing.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later, because I know you have an opinion about this, is why this is happening. But before we get
like just to add on your comment right there, right? We know it's a conversation being had inside a lot of companies, right? The problem is that it's happening inside those companies and not outside of those. Like, it's usually behind closed doors. It's usually behind where you're not going to hear it. Like, the perception is that we are all one team, great environment, all this sort of stuff. But in behind, you're going, how am I supposed to deliver that in 2 days or 3? Like there is an internal battle in every single company, if they like to say it or not. It's just how you sort of go about that to deliver, and what your principles and base outcome is going to be inside your project delivery.
Yeah, we'll talk about the reasons of why this is happening, because I feel like you have a strong opinion. I want to ask you, you touched on this fast-paced project environment and the pressure that we have to deliver projects. But from your point of view, how can technicians preserve this pride in the craft that you refer to, even in this environment that's quite challenging sometimes?
I don't know. I think the honest answer is I don't know. In the current environment in delivery and how it is structured, again, I talk about people with influence, right? The technicians aren't the people with influence. It's all the people. There's many rows above that before you get a perception of influence. Companies will always choose one of the two P's, profit or people. And they'll take profit over people most of the time. And because of that, the decline within the amount of experience inside these organizations and the amount of things that they have to do has then contributed to how we deliver our projects these days. So what can technicians do? Look, come down to this level. They're like outside of the tier ones, like this level is you now get a bit of more of a say in what you do, how you deliver, what quality you want to provide. Yes, there's still time pressures. Yes, there's still budget pressures, probably even more than inside some of those big organizations. But I feel that your craft can be utilized a hell of a lot more inside these sort of organizations at this sort of level, and not be suppressed as much as what they do sort of inside some of the bigger organizations currently.
Yeah, that's good. That's a very interesting opportunity to learn in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And thinking about learning, that makes me think about the next generation. You touched about on this point that there is this gap between the more senior people and the new people coming into the industry. But do you think we are doing enough to mentor the next generation of technicians?
No, not even close. Not even close. Most of our work is going offshore. I'm sure we'll touch on that at some point. Like I said, most of the people inside the technician space are moving. You get to a crossroad in your career, right? Your crossroad is, do I want to just keep doing what I love? And that's the crossroad I took. I want to keep doing documentation model delivery. So therefore, I'm able to still be in and understand what is happening down in that delivery side of things. And then also impart some of my experience onto the younger generation and the other people that I get to work with. Or you take the path of BIM management and coordination and things like that. Now that I had this conversation, I think, with the Arcadis lead at the time. I'm like, how does a BIM manager deliver a set of standards of delivery, especially within documentation and model delivery, when they're not actually doing the work themselves? It's very different. Like, even being in the pace that technology and the softwares and everything is progressing, like I'm even struggling to stay on top of all the different advancements in the different versions that are coming through. You know, I don't see how you can deliver a quality product if you're not actually delivering the quality product yourself. That's my point. That's my perspective. So all these people that have been managers, but then they're also the drafting lead and the modeling lead and all this sort of stuff, but haven't really touched the model nor probably a drafting package in the last 4 to 5 years. Look, they'll come back at me and probably say, no, I'm doing a great job. I don't see how you can if you aren't actually. The thing is that the other thing that we're struggling to get is feedback, the feedback loop, right? People are less likely to come back to you with issues. They're less likely, depending on the environment that you create. Like if you've created a fantastic environment within your organization where everybody is very open and honest is the key word there, about what they are doing and the things that are going right, but also mainly the things that are going wrong. You, as a manager or a senior, there's a certain personality that you need to be able to take that on, because it's not always easy to take that on, because you will always sort of divert to what you know and what you've always done and all that sort of stuff. So it's hard to take that criticism sometimes. Something that I've had to learn very quickly over the last 5 or so years. As I said, my parents are Croatian. I still have Croatian blood in me, and it does rise very quickly when in my younger years. So I've had to try and make sure that I take the perspectives that are being given to me and then see where I can utilize those perspectives. Because I think the way that we're delivering things now is that you take little bits of nuggets that you find that you get across many years of your delivery, and you put them into your ideas and perspectives as well. And that is how you advance. That is how you make things better. That is how you then start developing that, increasing that quality, increasing that efficiency, increasing that effectiveness of what you are delivering. If you struggle to take on criticism and different perspectives, then you're probably going to be stuck in a single lane for most of your career.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. You need to listen to and receive the feedback in a intelligent way, and understand that if you have a mentor, that mentor is probably giving you advice to help you improve.
Absolutely. At all levels. I tell all of our guys in Measure, in our Melbourne office and in our Brisbane office, I don't care what level you are. Don't look at me as some guy that's up here at this, with this title. That title means nothing to me. At the end of the day, we are all here delivering the same thing. You're still producing a model. I'm still producing a model. You're producing documentation. I'm producing documentation. We're here to work together. We're here to work as a team. I know that you're going to be doing that a little bit slower than what I would, but that's fine. As long as you keep asking the right questions and being open and asking those questions and making sure that you're not afraid to do so, that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for from everybody. Doesn't matter what level you are. Don't be afraid to come in and have your view, and let's have a conversation around it.
Yeah, that's great. I love this radical candor. That's very good.
Yeah.
You touched on the reality of delivery and the pressure that we are facing at the moment. But from your point of view, what are the biggest delivery challenges that you see repeatedly across projects?
As I think you've had it on a few podcasts now, time and budget. Time and budget. Everything is time and budget. There's not enough of it in both respects. So you have to try and deliver what you can inside those constraints. I think we're being tightened. But in saying that, if you produce a quality product, like I said, the clients that come back to you will be willing to maybe pay a little bit more, maybe give you a little bit more time, a little bit more leniency in things, because they know what they're going to get, the product that they're going to get from you. So yeah, it's always just time and budget.
Yeah, it's sort of the same problem. And how do you manage the expectations when the leadership team's demands really don't align with what's realistic?
I'll have conversations with people a lot. I will be, as you've seen, very open and honest. The great thing about Measure, it's a lot harder inside a bigger tier firm, right? Because you've got a lot of people to go through to get a message across. At Measure, I've got 3 people to get my message across. I've got my office leader and our managing directors, and that's it. So it's quite easy for myself to, as long as I deliver the message in a way that they can understand why I'm doing it, the how, why, and when, then I've been very lucky that they've literally been on board with most of the things that I've sort of put forward currently within my couple of years. I think I said this to our office manager just last week. I said, it's amazing what we've been able to do in just the 18 or so months that I've been here at Measure. It would have probably taken me 3 to 4 years in a big firm to be able to do just what we've been able to sort of achieve and bring forward. The maturity levels and the amount of digitization and all that sort of stuff within just our little organization in that short period of time. And that's just probably a big word there is trust. They've entrusted me to use my experience and help the business to develop, grow, mature. That's probably a valid point going the other way. I think we've lost a lot of trust in our people. I think we've lost a lot of trust in our organization, in our managers, in our leaders, sometimes even in our leadership teams to actually make the right calls. Again, people of influence. Do you have the right people within the positions of influence? If you get those positions wrong, things can go very south very quickly. Yeah. As we've all seen inside different organizations and all that sort of stuff. So getting the right people in the right positions is very important. And then just also being able to deliver the message in a way that it doesn't matter if you're technical like we are, or non-technical at all, and just looking after the business side of things, because they have their own skill sets that we have no idea about as well. So, but you need to be able to deliver a message and make sure that that message is delivered in a way that they are understanding of why it's going to either cost or take time or do that for a certain reason.
That's good. And you mentioned how sometimes even like BIM managers are far and sometimes disconnected to the delivery part. But if BIM managers are disconnected, imagine the leadership team. So I wonder, like, if there is one thing that you wish leadership team understood about delivery, what would that be?
I think it just comes down to just the understanding of why things. The issue we have is that everything that we see out in the world today on socials and all this sort of stuff is how quick we can be. You see all the great stuff, right? You can see I can click this one button and this is all done. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. That's a big bunch of smoke and mirrors. You go in behind and it's broken all the time. So it's the communication side of things, right? How we communicate the information. Like, this is what BIM was supposed to be, right? How do we communicate information, data, to get it to the right people at the right time? That's what BIM was supposed to be all about, right? But even at a general level, we have so much technology to be able to communicate with each other, just like we are now here today. And I think we've gotten worse at communicating than better. We have so many different avenues to be able to have a conversation through different pieces of technology and all this sort of stuff. But I think the way that we communicate has probably also decreased itself in its value. And therefore, the message is not getting across maybe as it used to as well.
Yeah, I like this point related to the fact that we always see good example of when things went well, and that creates a perception that things can be done very, very quickly.
Yep.
I've heard many times people saying, "Oh, just give me that one button that does everything," or I think something I remember from many, many years ago, somebody in the BIM team said to me, "Andrea, just simply say that there is no task that takes 1 hour. So there is nothing under 1 hour. So just don't think that there is anything you can do in less than 1 hour, because it's not real.
Yep.
I need to turn my computer on. I need to open Revit. I need to open the files, and 1 hour is gone.
1 hour's gone already. Yeah, absolutely. Look, absolutely. And that's where the communication side comes in, right? We get the same thing, right? Oh, just cut those 5 sections. I'm saying, yeah, but then I have to put them on the drawing. I have to make them look pretty. I have to do all this sort of stuff. That's going to take more than, even the smallest of changes does take time. And this is where we start. It's the communication side of things, about getting that understanding on. And we have a lot of conversations within our office, and we're able to, because we are just quite a small firm. So we have a lot of conversations about this sort of stuff. We have an open and honest policy inside our organisation as well. So we're constantly having those conversations about why things are taking this sort of time, understanding why they are taking that sort of time. Is there ways that we can improve that? And again, but it all comes back to, again, I want this to look like this. That's great. But it'll take you this amount of time, because you are going above and beyond what would be classified as standard sort of delivery within today's sort of delivery outcomes that we are seeing within industry. So it all comes back to communication. It all comes back to open and honest communication, I feel, with all levels of management. The more understanding that you get of... The other thing is, we're not always exposed, especially in bigger firms, to the pressures that leadership has, right? We don't quite, again, coming down to this level, and these are the things that I'm learning very quickly, is that there's a lot of other things to think about than just yourself, or just delivery, or just producing that piece of documentation. Everything has a level of pressure associated to it, right? Once you get up in the leadership levels and all that sort of stuff, even more pressures come onto you as well. So they're not always going to have the time for you, but making sure that to a certain level, people have an understanding of what you do, why you do it, and how you do it, then some humankind empathy comes back your way as well, in saying, hey, I've got this project, supposed to get it out this week, but I know that it's probably going to take 2 weeks. And I'm like, look, let's see what we can do. Like, just a little bit of empathy back towards everybody, doesn't matter what level you are sitting at, makes a world of difference in getting a project, getting an understanding of a project, and also getting a project delivered.
Very good. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, outsourcing. I know this is a topic you're really passionate about, and I just want to know, because I know you think that it affects how we develop the new generation of technicians. I just want to understand from your point of view, what do you think about outsourcing, and what are some hidden costs of relying heavily on outsourcing?
Disclaimer, I'm not against outsourcing. A lot of people think I'm against outsourcing. I'm not. I think there's a balance, and that balance in Australia is way off. And that's the issue. There's a reason why our skill set, the availability of people and their skill sets, and the level of their skill sets in this country is unavailable to us. It's because we have gone that far unbalanced in our delivery of projects to outsourcing that we have not brought through those next generations. We are not allowing people to develop. We are not allowing people to have the time to learn the skills, to learn from the basics. You come in now to a firm, it's sink or swim. You got to go, and you got to go at 100 miles an hour. So I think it's all about that balance. If you can get the balance right, you're part of the way for outsourcing to help or aid, right? I had this conversation, I think just last week, with one of our technicians, and I said, if an organization was able to get the amount of resources that they have offshore at the cost of offshore here in Australia, would we have offshoring? The answer is no, we wouldn't have offshoring, right? So I think we have the resources, but we're never going to get that cost base. So at the end of the day, offshoring is used to reduce cost, right? Now, at some point in time, we're going to get to a point where you're going to have to offshore 100% because you're just not going to have the available people anymore, because you are not putting the investment and the time into your local people. You're not putting the time and investment into bringing up the next generations. And that goes into not just technicians, but into engineers, into all levels of delivery inside the AEC industry. Like, we need to give people the time, we need to give people the investment, we need to give people the mentorship to be able to deliver our projects. And at the end of the day, we are delivering projects it makes it sound like offshoring is a bad thing, right? But I think we can both help each other. But like I said, you need to get that balance right to be able to do that. The other thing is we have a thing in Australia it's funny because I've done work for New South Wales, I've done work for Victoria, I've done work in Queensland, right? And let's stick to infrastructure just for a minute there. The way that they deliver their documentation is completely different. Completely different. If you're doing a bridge in Queensland, if you're doing a bridge in New South Wales, if you're doing a bridge in Victoria, there is no standardization across any of that documentation delivery. Zero. Absolutely zero. Now, we have a federal government that does things completely different. We have state governments that do things completely different. We have even councils inside those states that do things completely different. Now, let's take that into account. Let's take our individual organizations. Individual organizations from an outside facing will say that we are one team. We all know that's not true, right? We all know that most organizations will live inside their silos inside their organizations, right? And things will be done a little bit differently depending on the team that you're working for and what you're doing. Yes, there is a baseline standard that most of them adhere to, but it's not always perfect, right? Now let's go offshore. So different delivery standards across different states, different organizations, different silos inside those organizations. What sort of quality do you think you're going to get from your offshore team coming back? Like, it's such a difficult formula to put together and get something standardized and delivered back to a quality that you would be expecting. Right? The only way these things sort of work is that if you were to get somebody inside your organization to go over there, wherever your offshoring is, live there, mentor, be a part of that organization, like they're your own home office or they're just working from home, see them as like they're working from home, then we've seen that can work. That quality then improves. But there is also cultural backgrounds, there is also communication backgrounds, there is also a bunch of other factors as well that starts to affect different bits and pieces in quality that comes back, and then the quality that gets delivered throughout the project life cycle inside of that. So there is a way that you can get to a certain standard, but it's never going to be perfect, and nobody is. I personally don't think nobody's cracked the code yet on how to get that to work efficiently and effectively. For me, it's all about the balance. We need to readjust that balance back to local compared to offshore. We need to make sure that we have those generations coming through, giving them the time and investment to be able to deliver the projects of the future. because I'll be long retired, and I'm thankful for that. But we will get to a stage where we're not going to have those people to be able to continue doing that side of things if we continue on sort of the paths that we are heading on with inside of that.
Yeah, at that point you lose the mentors as well, and you won't have the people that go to whichever country to train the people in that country as well. So it would be be a very difficult situation to be in.
But you look at an old engineering firm, right? You used to have 20 engineers, and you used to probably have just about the same, if not more, technicians to support them because of the way we were delivering those projects back in those days. Yes, those teams have compressed and shrunken, but when you got now 1 or 2 people here locally doing 20 people offshore, what do you think the pressures are on those people? They're trying to make sure, number one, that the quality that they're getting back is what is expected of them, but then also having to do everything that they need to do here back locally. It just puts, and this is where it comes to the burnout, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but and this is why we get people within sort of my generation starting to really think about, is it worth it anymore? Like, is it truly worth it anymore? Me sitting here getting absolutely hammered week in, week out, not just by the local pressures, but then also those pressures as well. And that's where we sort of start seeing people going, look, no, that's enough. Or they did what I did and they go, no, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to come down to, say, this sort of level and just continue doing what I love with different sort of pressures, but at least you know those pressures are working towards something a little bit more internal and a little bit more on that quality side of things of delivering a product as well. So it's, if an organization can find the balance, I think that they will excel themselves past everybody within industry. But nobody's found that balance, and nobody's found the right formula yet to deliver a quality product using all of that. In my opinion.
Yeah, and you mentioned the burnout. I just want to know from your point of view, how do you see the burnout showing up in teams, and what can leadership do to prevent this burnout and also retain good people?
Again, it's a time pressures and budget, right? The amount of, if you keep putting that onto people feel suffocated, right? So there's a little bit of empathy required to understand that what you want and what we are delivering takes a certain amount of time and effort and those sort of things. And then just making sure that you look after your people, have conversations with them, give them that little bit, try and give them that little bit of extra time to be able to deliver that or understand why it's taking what it is taking and how can we assist you inside doing that. I don't really have the answer to it because of the time, like, even in my role here down at within Measure, like, I feel the pressure sometimes also. I have three or so projects going right at the minute, all at the same time. I've got 3 versions of Revit open and plus doing some standardized documentation around that. Like, there's always going to be pressures, but understanding yourself, understanding what you are trying to deliver. I'm still learning on time management side of things. I think that's a big learning curve on trying to manage time and expectations, and then also communicating that time and expectations to people and making them understand what we are delivering, where we're at, and what it's going to take to be able to deliver that project. So look, I've been doing this for nearly 22 years, and I still don't know the right formula to be able to do that. But coming back to self, understand who you are, understand what you want out of this. I know what I want from this. I want to deliver a quality product. I love what I do. So to me, it's always running through, my cogs always turn on, how do I make sure I am delivering on that, but also enjoying doing that as well.
Yeah, and speaking about doing that as well, I know you have a very interesting and unusual view around, maybe not unusual, more uncommon view around being in this role where you are at the same time a doer and a driver and a leader. So it's quite uncommon, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just keen to understand from your point of view what motivates you to stay deeply involved in the delivery, even as a leader.
I love it. At the end of the day, you got to love it. And it's also the people around you, right? They can either make you or break you. So I love, people that know me know I love what I do. There is no way that I would ever give up documentation delivery ever. Unfortunately, with my experience and technical ability, leadership was always going to have to fall into there somewhere. So that's still a massive learning curve for me. Trying to navigate that side of things, plus also still do what I love to do, has been an absolute challenge. I think we mentioned earlier, or we might not have, if you think you're good at what you do, come down to this level and let's see how good you really are. I think this has opened my eyes up a hell of a lot to many different things. So I think you have to be a certain type. We always joke in the office, and I always say I'm just built different, right? I struggle, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I struggle to switch off. And that's probably one of my bad things to a certain extent, but good things for the business, because I'm always thinking, I'm always wanting to do, always wanting to move forward. But personally, I've got to find ways that I need to switch off. So I struggle to switch off. My cogs are always turning. I'm always thinking about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what's next on the agenda, but also thinking about industry as well. Because at the end of the day, like I said, our industry is very small. I love having the conversations just like this one with others, because that's where you learn so much. That is where you get the most amount of knowledge, is in the knowledge sharing with others within our industry. And being still within the delivery side of things gives me, I think I'm seen as more approachable, because I am still very much delivering inside my own team, but also externally as well. I think some people, you sometimes think you're going, oh, what's his name? Oh, I don't know if I should talk to him or her because of their stature or their, within the industry. So I try and make sure I stay humble and just make sure people are, when they come up to me, just have the conversation. Just be open, be honest. Some people you will attract, some people will just not like you, and that is okay with me. You will find that if you are open and honest and you have a perspective and you're able to outline that perspective, most people will be very open to having that conversation. They're very personable towards you. It's the ones that probably are a lot more closed-minded that probably might go away from you, and that's okay. You're never gonna, and that's one of the other things. You're never going to please everybody. You are never going to please everybody. So having a defined line of what you want, how you want to do it, that the how, when, what, and why, answer all those questions. If you can answer all those and it makes sense, it's probably a good thing. If you can't answer all those questions, maybe there's a little bit more work that's required to be able to do that. So yeah, look, I just love what I do. I love seeing a great set of documentation, and I love seeing people produce a great set of documentation. And I hope we never lose the craft. I really do. But that is a massive concern.
Yeah. It's interesting. And we are close to the end of the episode. I just one more question for you. I think it will be very interesting to understand your perspective on which is the future of the role. So this role has changed a lot in a short time, because it isn't a long time ago where people were drawing by hand on these tables, large rooms, and people can Google drafters and go on images and see what they look like. And they were even smoking in offices. And very quickly they transitioned from that to CAD and then to 3D. And now we are talking about AI. We still probably don't know exactly what that means for this industry. But I just want to know, from your point of view, where do you see the role of the technicians evolving in the next maybe 5-10 years, or any view you may have?
I think it depends on the level that you end up moving into. I think the higher level of construction and engineering firms, I think they will move quick. I think that will change rapidly. I don't think it'll change all too much, say, within your smaller builders, your smaller architects, because we just don't have the budgets nor the capabilities or the knowledge or the time to be able to put in as much effort into these sort of things. So we'll sort of be coattailing on top of all these things that are getting delivered. Where I see technicians, I hope we see a retraction in roles. Engineers should be engineers. Technicians should be technicians. We need to have trust in both of those facets to be able to deliver a project, deliver a great design with a great set of documentations. Down the line, it might be just a model. I know there's a big push for just a model. I don't think it works. Especially here in Australia, like I said, with the multi-standardized delivery, and everybody wants to sign off on a piece of paper. But at some point, it might get there. But I think the technician's role will always be there. I just hope that technician's role is here and not offshore. I hope that we have people here delivering a quality product, and using that experience to then impart that experience onto others. I hope that our industry sees the value in what each level of delivery delivers, and doesn't just always look at that number. Don't always look at the number, look at the product that you're producing, and really ask yourself, are you happy with the product that you are producing? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, then why are we not changing that? So look, I hope that industry, they always say, never look behind, always go forward, right? But I hope that we do look a little bit more behind and go, what did we do so well back then, right? Why are we trying to reinvent something? BIM was supposed to make life easier, right? BIM was supposed to make 3D modeling, Revit, all this sort of stuff was supposed to make our lives easier. All it's done is complicate our lives. All it's done is just complicate the absolute, insert word here, of our lives. So I think we just need to bring things back to basics, right? We all want to be able to single button push something and it all to be done. What happens when that button breaks? Like, can we still do it the other way? Is there another way? Is that button adaptable? Is that button, or is that the be all and end all? If that button is the be all and end all of your organization, you're in trouble, because there's only a few people that know that button and know how that button was developed. So you lose those people. They're probably being paid very well, actually. But if you lose those people, then everything sort of, it all flows down, right? That one button decreases the knowledge of everybody below them. Because if you're just clicking that one button, you're decreasing yourself of knowledge. Because why does it do that? How does it do that? If you don't know that answer, then you need to ask those questions. So I know, because we go back in the, this is probably going a little bit back, but if we have back in AutoCAD, right, all you needed to know was how to put together an XREF and how to distinguish some layers. That's all you really needed to know, right? So you could jump into any firm and then be able to sort of get in, understand the process and procedure, and deliver a project. Let's jump to Revit, all these other technologies, right? You go to 3 different firms. They are doing things. You're literally starting from scratch in all 3 of those firms. You have no idea what they do. Some of them might have their own bunch of Dynamo scripts that they run. Some might have their own C# toolbar that they're running. The other one might be literally running Revit at its all-time basics from out-of-the-box families. Are you adaptable enough to be able to go, I can sit in each one of those offices and deliver a project? If the answer as a technician is no, start learning. Start learning, because adaptability is what will keep us as technicians around. If you are not adaptable, it's much easier to either outsource or AI your role, most likely in the future. If you are able to be adaptable and problem solve, understand and communicate and deliver, those roles will never be automated. Those roles will never be AI'd. You are probably worth your weight in gold. So understand the process, understand the workflow, ask 101 questions, understand it, and then form your own opinion on everything that we do.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. This is a fantastic episode. I really loved it. I really love your honest insights and the fact that you can represent the voice of those who are still deep in the doing, but you really bring a different perspective to the table, which I really love. And I feel like this episode could continue for the next 10 hours. We should at some point record another episode, my friend, and keep on talking about other topics. But this was really great. So if people, I know you're very active on LinkedIn, but if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Oh, absolutely. Look, LinkedIn is definitely the place to get me. If you want to hear some bombs come out, then that is probably the place to go to. If you saw my last LinkedIn post, if you're there just to sell me something, please don't. Please don't follow me. But look, if you just want to learn, grow, because I also want to learn and grow. So, getting different connections from different industries and different types of people, different countries even, like the amount that you can learn today is just wild, absolutely wild. And you need to be open to learning and growing and taking in that knowledge. I think that's going to benefit everybody and anybody. It doesn't matter what industry you are in. So definitely LinkedIn. Come and say hi.
Thank you, Joseph. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andre. Thank you very much.